Oh, yo, what's up, everybody? This is TJ Sterling, president lead artist of Ray Comics, and we are here today for the launching successful comics and Kickstarters panel with some incredible panelists, good friends of mine. Please, thank you for coming, everybody. Please go around and introduce yourself. Let's start with Newton and work our way down.
Hey, TJ, thanks for having me. My name is Newton Lillevoix. I'm the creator of Crescent City Monsters. And you can find me at Dream Fury Comics if you want to follow me on social media.
So, am I next? Cause
yes, sir.
I don't know if everybody sees it the same way. My name is Greg Burnham, co-creator and writer for Tuskegee Airs, creator and writer for The Search for Sadaka, and some other stuff too.
Dope.
What's good? This is Greg Anderson, LEC, the main Greg you should be worried about here on this panel.
Ooh, let me put my hood on.
I'm the writer and creator of It's Nana the Word Spider, as well as a couple of other books that we ran through Kickstarter.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Kwanzaa Sajifo. I'm the creator of Black, comics that ask what if Black people had superpowers, and the creative architect for Humanoids H1 Comics line.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to have all you guys here for the panel. So all of us here have ran Kickstarters. We've been in the comic book business for a little while doing our thing. And I think a lot of people are curious. I mean, I think all of us collectively, whether it's in groups or in person, get asked questions about how do you launch a successful comic book and then follow that with a Kickstarter and build a fan base, build a business. And all of us have done this for a while, and each one of you panelists have done such a great job with doing this on a highly successful level for a long period of time. So I'd love to just get your guys' opinion. First of all, like if someone's watching this and they've never and they want to create a comic book and they don't know where to start, maybe you guys could start with some base level information as to where to start with your character, your ideas, and how to get into the business.
Yeah, I can start. So there's a few ways you can start, or a few ways you could get into the comic book business, right? So I'm just going to talk about the way I started. So the model I chose is, and I did a little research into it before I even jumped into the whole comic book thing, is I chose to do the webcomic thing first, right? So before I even had a printed comic book, I chose the path of creating a webcomic. Every week or so, I would bring out like 2 or 3 pages and slowly build an audience that way. And then once I had that audience after the first issue, then I started the Kickstarter. One of the things about that is that people always say, hey, if you have the comic book available for free, people won't buy it, right? But you'll be surprised that actually people do buy your comic book, even if it's posted online, because your audience is people who actually want to hold a physical comic book, right? So reading it online may not satisfy them enough, and if they like the story enough, then that's the audience that you're looking for, who actually wants to actually buy the physical comic book. So that's the path I took. So that's a path that, and it's not something that I say is the best path, but it's one of the alternate paths that you could take, because it's a low barrier to entry, right? Because at that point, as a webcomic, you don't actually have to print it. All you have to do is actually just have the digital version of the comic book online. So that's one path you could take.
Dope. Fantastic. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so we did it the opposite way. Back in 2000, we did guerrilla warfare. I don't pull this out for everybody.
Yo, I ain't never seen that before.
This is a copy. You can see it's destroyed, but this is a comic that me and Marcus did back in like 2000. We were young whippersnappers, and we were like, we're just gonna do this comic and then take over the world. And it was dope. We were printed up at Kinko's. We were selling it at a
Old
Criminal
school.
Record. If you guys are familiar with Atlanta, it's like a record/comic shop. It was great. The only problem was we were losing money every time we saw the copy because we were printing, we were paying for the paper, printing it up by ourselves, like staples, everything. And so we're like, we proved that we could do something that was dope that people would want to buy. Like people were buying it, like they were selling out every day. They put new books in. But we realized, which a huge part of it is that if you don't know the business side or don't understand how to actually make money and make it sustainable, then it doesn't matter how good your book is. So we went and did a lot of other stuff, but in that time I did a couple of children's books. Marcus worked on Hero Cats with Action Lab. And, so there were conventions we were going to and learning the publishing side. And basically we stole all the information, like everything that was presented in front of us, we took it and then we morphed it into a way for us to be prosperous really. So we understand that you got to order in bulk. If you're not ordering in bulk, then your books are going to cost a lot, and then you got to sell them for a lot, and you're still not going to make that much of a profit. We learned how to go directly to, printers and instead of looking for middle people, which definitely helps. So I just say, like, learn the business. So many people are dope, like as far as art goes, as far as writing goes. But if you don't understand the business and how to make it work for you, like Newton said, and I'm going to not talk forever, but Newton said something very important, which is that when people are fans, like if you can make a fan of your property, those people will buy stuff over and over. I got like 50 copies of Isnana somewhere. Like I give them to people that I think like, hey, you might like this. You know what I'm saying? Greg had a sale recently. I was like, well, I guess I'll just grab another copy, With White, Kwanzaa, when you dropped White, I think it was at New York Comic-Con, a friend of mine from Virginia was like, yo, I'll pay you any amount of money to go to that table and get this copy. And then you're coming to Virginia in like 4 months, right? I'll just get it from you then at that con. You know what I'm saying? So when you make fans of your property, then it just takes off. I'm gonna shut up. That's probably too much time.
No, that's good, man. Because I think what everybody is saying so far is that like there's certain foundational things in terms of like approaching it, but there's no singular way to do it. You definitely got to know the business. Like you need to know like what your costs are. You got your P&L straight, because a lot of people just think like, oh, I'm gonna just go up on Kickstarter and bank. I'm out. It's like, it's like even outside of your profit margin, you got to think about your taxes. Because Sam's gonna come and get you. Like our first Kickstarter, we got on that first one just because we hadn't spent all of the funds like that fiscal year. And Uncle Sam was like, well, you made this much. It's like, but we spent this much. So it was a learning curve on a lot of that, and I think the other part that's in there is like, making sure that your concept is clear if you're going into it, like making sure that you have a clear vision so that your audience can find you and like tap into that. It's like, I've seen like a lot of, campaigns where it's like they wild, like, okay, I'm feeling the art, but I don't know what this is about. Or it's like, oh, it's a really cool story, but the art's kind of like, It's like, so it's about really trying to like work on that project and hone in this thing that you want to put out there as a representation of your work. And that doesn't mean like just stay in the basement, like grinding, like, trying to make the perfect thing, but you really want like it to hit your audience and for them to be like, oh yeah, I understand Tuskegee Bears, man. It's like that's hot. I want to get that. I understand Black. Like I want to get that as well. So I think that's something that's key, because there's so many other projects out there. You don't want yours to get lost in it. So whether it's building an audience ahead of time or like, understanding like, your profits and costs, also just, like making sure that idea is clean, and that it's clear, so that people can just like say like, I'm getting it. Because I know me personally, I know it from marketing, which I do as a day job, but I also know for me personally, if I understand the concept right away, I'll just hit the support button, like quick. I'm just like, oh, that's dope. And just like that's part of what I
Having a very clear pitch in terms of like how you're delivering the information about your book.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. That's dope, man. Greg, what do you think, man?
I mean, first off, I want to say every one of y'all stole my answers, so F y'all. But I'd say to just even piggyback off of the most recent what Kwanzaa was saying is, I know for me when I created Is Nana, I mean, when it comes to my work in general, I pretty much see it as I'm writing stuff that I want to see, that I've been wanting to see as a consumer, that I've been wanting to see since I was younger, and so on and so forth. So with that mentality in mind and being very, I guess, determined with that sense of what I'm doing is something that I want to see, and understanding that there is an audience for that as well. So a lot of that is on top of building your fan base, and the audience is trying to find where they are, and that's something that I feel a lot of people don't think about when they create, because they just create and they just assume once I put it out there, if it's good enough, someone's gonna find it. That's not how it works. You got to literally do the work of finding that audience who want to see your work, because there's a lot of people on my page, they follow me to follow, but they don't really give a crap about it, Zana. That's not the audience for it.
They care about them shirtless pics. That's what they care about.
Exactly, man. They love the thirst traps. But then you got the ones that if you can use the thirst traps, you can hopefully buy your book. There you go. Hey. But
I'm gonna hit the gym and get on that.
No, but it's really about knowing your audience. Trying to figure out what it is. Sometimes we can't do it right now, but try to go to events and conventions and see who are the ones who tend to stop at your table. Because that's something, and trying to gauge their interest and speaking to them and finding what works for them as well. And also I was looking at it as me as a fan of indie books before I did mine. What do I want to see when it comes to the book being released? Because I was used to, going to these indie cons and buying these dope ass books, and then it would take about a year or two for me to finally get the next issue. Because and I understood why it took so long, because I was friends with a lot of people in the industry, so understanding the struggles of what they were doing just to release one single issue. So I was never upset about that. But for me as a fan, it's like, yo, I want to finish this story arc already. Like this story arc was dope. So when I created Is Nana, I didn't want to have like a single issue and so on. I wanted to at least release it as a volume with a full story arc. It took a while, so I had to keep saving money to pay out of pocket in order to make that happen. But I thought, if I have the full story arc, hopefully I can get enough people willing to read the whole thing. And so I think that's why my first Kickstarter for Is Nana went so well.
That's dope. And every one of you guys has an interesting perspective in terms of like how to, start in this business. And even myself, when I first started, I literally my whole goal was creating a unique story, something a little different, but something I love that was very personal to me. And I'm like, man, I think other people are really going to like this. And then I just started working the con circuit and building my fan base one show at a time. And I guess that kind of brings me to my next question for everybody is that, what is it? Because I think all of us have gotten the question, like, what's your secret? What's the sauce? What's the magic bullet in terms of like building a larger fan base? And what was it like for you guys building fan bases at conventions? And what did that look like for a lot of people who don't know or have never done a con and mostly live on this online space now? What is it like? What was it like for you guys when you did cons, and how did that work for you in terms of building your fan base?
We started kind of small because we weren't doing cons like right away, and we weren't doing that many. We would do New York because the whole team for like Black is in New York. That was easy for us to like show up and stuff. But we started doing more because there's a I think sometimes people think like everybody knows about Black because we know about it, you know, like, so never think that everybody knows about your project. There's always people. So I think the thing that I noticed was like every time we'd go to another one, there'd be more people, and people would tell their friends, people would bring their friends over. They ask like, will you be here next year? Will you get this show? You know, or like, I got a friend in Seattle, like I'll tell them to come by. So I think like being physically there and being able to like, you know, connect with people who maybe they just didn't see that, you know, Instagram post. Maybe they didn't see that tweet or whatever, or maybe they didn't see the Kickstarter, you know, and be able to like engage them and like talk to them about your product has been like really, really interesting, especially in the last couple of years. Is, you know, doing the sales pitch over and over again, watching people's reaction to it is always kind of a nice feeling, you know?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. For us, it was weird because, like, me and Marcus have been grinding. We've had businesses. We've been doing stuff in Atlanta for 20 years. And so it's like when we started, you know, hitting the cons, like initially we were like just bugged out because it's like, how do you guys know anything about us? Like, we had people that were like actual fans early on, and I think we never took it for granted because like we were like going there like, yo, we're gonna tell everybody, nobody knows who we are, we're gonna let them know who we are. And you know, we already had a little bit of fans, so you know, we went to like New York, Awesome Con, you know, the first year, and we're hitting these conventions up and quickly realizing what we've already been to conventions and all of that, and what we realized that this is like a social event, right? So as much as we're coming here to make money, we're also coming to, you know, talk to people and engage. Like Kwanzaa said, I'm going to do the pitch 4,000 times in a weekend. You know, it's like we're doing, you know, we're coming for all of those reasons. And when you see the reaction and just some of, you know, the stuff that I've done in my life, I look for unique reactions. I don't want the stuff where it's like, it's just like with web sales, right? I like it when I'm just seeing sales go through and I don't know where, you know, why these people are buying, what prompted them, but it's because people are now going to the site, they're sharing, and it's all unique where you're not like coaxing anybody or tricking anybody. So I would just sit back and look at the people's reactions, because that's what you really want to know, right? Like, if I put this book in a place and I'm not anywhere around, are people going to buy it? Or are they just buying it because, you know, it's the thing to do or whatever? So being able to gauge in real time and understand that something that we're doing, which ironically, everybody on this panel is doing something that maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it would have been really hard to do. And 20 years ago, people would have been telling you, hell no, you can't do that. And so we're doing it, and then we see the people's reaction to it. You know what I'm saying? And that means a lot. That gives you like fuel to keep going. Ironically, I think the first time I went to C2E2, Larry Stroman came up to the table. And Larry's a big dude, man. I'm a big dude, but Larry's a big dude. You know, and and you're looking up like, that's Larry Stroman. And he gave me like one of the biggest pieces of advice was, he goes to as many shows, like anytime he gets invited, he goes. And he was like, what happens is you might get 2 or 3 people, you know, maybe more, but you'll definitely get like a couple of people that are going to become a fan of you, and they're going to support like everything that you do, as long as you let them know that you're doing it, right? So just think, you keep building up. And so you might have, like Greg said, you might have 1 billion followers, but you might have 5,000 people that are going to support everything that you do. And that can really carry you in this game, you know, especially independent. We don't have a lot of overhead costs, you know. So, yeah, the con circuit has been great. I miss it right now. I know you guys probably miss it too. But it's very valuable because people can put their hands on you. They can stand right in front of you and see the person who creates this stuff they're a fan of.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Newton?
Yeah. So the thing that Kwanzaa and Greg said about the pitch, I think that's one of the cool things about doing a con, right? You get to perfect the pitch. When you're online and you're telling people your pitch, you really can't see what their reaction is, right? But when you're at a con and you're telling people what the story is, and you're trying to do it in the as quickly and as efficiently as possible, you get to see their reaction, like, oh, and they'll say something and you're like, oh wow, I just kind of threw that out there, but I got this reaction. Let me keep using that. Like I remember I was at a table with Greg Anderson, and he was pitching the sci-fi story. I forgot the title of it. Marasa, and he said he kept using space pirates, right? I was like, yo, what's up with the space pirates? Why you keep saying space pirates? He's like, yo, dude, people love it when I say space pirates. They buy immediately. I don't even have to finish the pitch. I was like, what? so he left his table, and we were sharing a table, and so I'm pitching my story, and they look over and they see his book. And so I start pitching his story, and I'm kind of fumbling my way through because I don't remember his pitch exactly. And I just say space pirates, and they're, oh, okay, so they're like, so they bought the book. But yeah, when you're there pitching a story at a con, it's really great to kind of just be able to see people's reaction. And you can use that in your marketing, right? Your online marketing. You could translate that to sales on online marketing. Like for example, for Crescent City Monsters, I know, like, for whatever reason, if I mention New Orleans, there's a lot of people who either want to go to New Orleans, or they've been to New Orleans, and they're like, oh wow, and that place, invokes some kind of reaction to people. So, I try to say that as that New Orleans as much as possible. So, at cons is great. You get to perfect your pitch, and like I said, you can use that in the online world. In your marketing, so yeah, and yeah, I absolutely miss cons too.
That's a fantastic point. I mean, you're literally in real time fine tuning one of the biggest pieces of your business, the pitch, in terms, and all that goes on your website. That it's in blurbs, it's in articles. I mean, so cons are absolutely this incredible ground for us as creators, and I just think that it's amazing to hear all of you talk about it. Greg Burnham, I mean, when you mentioned what the con circuit was like all them years ago. I mean, I remember briefly touching and seeing what it was in 2005 when I first started going, and just the environment was so much different back then, and it was so cool. But there was a pocket of small indie creators, and we've grown so much since then. So it's just amazing. Greg Anderson, Elise, did you want to say anything else, my G?
Elise, mofo, Elise, bro. Come on, bro. Nah, I miss the hell out of cons. I'd say one of my favorite things, aside from making money to pay rent and bills and stuff like that, is literally building relationships with people, whether it's other creators as well, but meeting a whole bunch of people you had no idea were actually fans of your work was something that like blew my mind. Like I would get a lot of little kids that knew my stuff, or even when I went to Arkansas, and me thinking, ain't nobody reading my stuff in Arkansas, and then a whole bunch of people said, oh my God, you're here, I love your work.
That's a lie, because we was at Arkansas like the year before you went, and everybody was like, hey, do you know the guy that does this Nana?
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's why when you hit me up, I was like, yeah, go there.
I was shocked. I was totally shocked. And even when I went there, the guy who was hosting me, my friend, Joshua Price, we were hanging out, and he took me to his job. And apparently there were people there who was like, whoa, I love your work. And, learning about the different people that's in those conventions, who frequent there, who want to see your type of work. And that becomes like a new built-in relationship that you have, where you guys stay connected on social media. And then they also, push your stuff out there. There are times where sometimes they can't support you, but they'll bring their friends along or their family along, who say, this is the stuff that we're looking for. And just, yeah, building those relationships has always been great. Putting voices and faces to people that you've known on social media for a while it's something that I deeply value and I deeply miss tremendously.
Absolutely.
And can I just say one more thing real quick?
Yeah, go
Another
ahead.
element of the convention, like, you know, when you go to these same conventions every year, you watch these kids grow up. You know, you watch these families grow together. You know, one year it's a husband and a wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, then it's husband, wife, then there's a baby. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these extra elements. And I'm so glad, as crappy as social media is, it's so cool to watch those people that you follow that become like, you know, like almost like real friends to you. And then you get to meet them like in Seattle or, you know, San Francisco or wherever you go. So it's awesome.
I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And I think there's one common theme that everyone's really talking about here in terms of like personal interaction and conventions. And I could say, just as, you know, friends of y'all and people, because I know each one of you guys, that each one of you will put people first, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's really what it is. It's like putting people above the currency, you know what I'm saying? Like the customer, the people who are supporting us, they're number one and the dollar comes second. And I was watching an interview from Damon John just the other day, because I love anything Shark Tank related and business related. So I'm watching Damon John and he's talking about people over currency. And I was like, yo, that's so true, because that's what we're doing. We're building these relationships with people that really mean something. We're actually caring about them. We're meeting their families and seeing them grow. So it's a powerful thing. And kind of segues into my next thing about now that we've all figured out, you know, as a creator, you've built your fan base, you've been going to conventions for a number of years, you've been online. How do you wrap your head around, for the people who are just starting, thinking about building a Kickstarter campaign, and what does that look like?
Got to do your math first. That's really important on the Kickstarter campaign. It's like you got to know all those like secret costs. And I mean, they're not secret, but it's like you got to like really break it down. And you don't always get it like perfectly right, because, you know, things change constantly, like postage. You know, that's always like a sliding scale, you know, because you could be launching a Kickstarter and stamps don't cost as much, and when you do it, they cost more, so you might get lucky and they're a little cheaper this time. Like, so it's like there's just this sliding scale where you just really have to make sure, like, how much is this going to cost me to make? How much is this going to cost me per like tier to like put out and mail to people? Like, how much is each one of these things going to do? And like, if you're on your game, like, you break even. If you're doing well, you make a little something. But I think that one's so important. That was something I thought I had figured out on the first one. I even thought I had it figured out perfect on the second one and stuff like that. But then you just find those little things are just like, man, it's like, now like medium will cost this. All right. I guess that's just what it is.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I wanted to quickly just interject with something that having your own scale is like a humongous thing, at least for my campaign. Having your own scale and then pre-weighing all of your rewards. You know what I'm saying? I think Newton and you and I talked about this previously before I started. I got a free scale. I think people, if you're listening, you can get a free scale from stamps.com. The only thing you pay is shipping. It's like $10, but any other stamp scale is like $40 anywhere else. So everyone else jump on it.
Yeah, Kwanzaa is right. The math is very, very important. I mean, you really got to break it down to cost per unit. And then even further than that, you have to do cost per unit per tier, right? Because every tier has a different thing, different size, different shape, and shipping and supplies. And so you really have to do the math. And another important thing too is the marketing. You have to really prep people for your Kickstarter. And I'm not talking about like the week before. I'm talking about like at least 2 months, as if you have a big fan base and they'll jump on it real quick. But if you're new, I recommend, at least 3 months before you even start the Kickstarter, you start doing the marketing, tell people like, hey, my Kickstarter is coming, and it's going to be at this date. Even if you don't have a specific date, you can give them just an estimate. And even if you do have a specific date, you can always push it back, right? Because pushing your date back is not that big of a deal. I've done it twice before. Like I said, oh, you know what? Never mind. I'm pushing it back for a week. But give them a time, and then at least like if it's your first Kickstarter, at least 3 months headway. Make sure you have a mailing list. If you don't have a mailing list, at least make sure you're doing something on whichever social media platform, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you're posting like almost every day, like boom, boom. Look at this. This is what I'm working towards. And don't ever feel like you're spamming or you're talking too much about your project. It only feels like that to you because you're doing it every day. But people aren't like monitoring you every day. Sometimes they may miss you because of the algorithms, right? So they may miss for 2 or 3 days. So the outside world, you're not spamming them, so don't worry about that. Just keep posting, keep mentioning your project. And that's those two are really important, the marketing and making sure you get your numbers right, do the math.
That's true. We marketed Black a year before we launched a Kickstarter, low key. So that's like really important.
And yeah, like those, and I like to call them hidden costs, like you, Kwanzaa. Even though Kickstarter tells you, but 8%, because a lot of people I don't think understand that have never done it. Pretty much 8% of whatever you raise is gone, like off the rip. That's before any taxes. Like if you're not factoring in shipping, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I gotta beat this dead horse. If you're not factoring in shipping in your whole process, then you don't even need to be doing it. Like I've had people at the end be like, man, I had to pay out of pocket for shipping. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but, and you learn from everything, right? So my thing is like, I learned like years ago, like 2012, I think I did a Kickstarter for my first children's book, and I ain't win. I lost. I took a nice healthy L right there. But in that experience, it's like we're always fine tuning and trying to figure out, okay, what needs to be different. So I have my own little algorithm that I came up with where I say, I feel like 10% of the people that follow you are actually going to spend money on you. So you need to try to build your awareness up. Now with Facebook, you can have people following you, but they're hiding your post. Like you have to pay, like on your business page or whatever, you have to pay in order to get views for your post pretty much. So you got to get out as many ways as possible. Like Newton said, post frequently and build, but also don't put it to where I have to launch a Kickstarter at this point on this specific day. Because if you only got 8 people following you, then you don't need to, or the 8 people that know what your project is, you don't need to launch unless you got some rich family members or something. The last part of it, I tell people all the time, because, behind closed doors, I give a lot of people advice on, what to do. I think we all do, right? We're sharing what we know, what works for us. And I tell people all the time, if you're doing a Kickstarter because you need to make some money or you want to make some money, then you're destined to lose, even if you get it, because there's so many other factors that come into it that you got to cover, that if you're just trying to get the money, it might not even be worth it. I also say marketing, like I want to, and I said it before, but I just want to see if people really rock with my project, right? Like I can remember everybody here, like when I first saw your project, like Newton, where I saw like somebody walk by our table in Harlem with Crescent City Monsters. I was like, I want that. Where do I go to get that? Marcus, I'll be right back. And I think Marcus actually left me and ran up there and got it first. But yeah, you want to make sure that people really, you know, are rocking with you. And it's not just like we've seen some people, right, that they got a machine behind them. The right person tweets them out and, you know, it sends them on this, you know, this arc that's like untouchable. But you want to make sure, because we're doing this for the long run, right? We're not just trying to drop a book and be out. So you want to make sure that you can gauge like real interest in your project.
Amen. Greg?
Yeah, I would say different things to think about in terms of marketing as well is trying to find as many creative ways as you can with your posts and how you're going to target people, because as it was mentioned earlier, the algorithms totally screw you the hell up. This wasn't an issue years ago. People would see your posts all the time. They'd see your Kickstarters. Now it's like you mention Kickstarter on Facebook, nobody's going to see that post. And you post a link, maybe 2 people is going to see them links. So you got to think of various ways in order to bypass that. I started making memes like a year or so ago, and a lot of people started seeing those and finding them funny, and that would get people to check it out. Same as mailing lists, even using previous Kickstarters that you've done, even the ones that have failed. That's like a built-in mailing list that you got, because then they're getting the updates as well. What else? One thing is going back to building relationships and networking with people, making sure that you're cool with a lot of people. They have a group of folks on their page that will check out things that they recommend, or they would see an image that they post and that person might think, yo, that looks pretty dope. You never know who's watching your stuff. You never know who can make or break your stuff as well. So it's really just trying to find creative ways and not being afraid to ask for help as well. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it on top of everything else that's been mentioned already.
You made me think about that Facebook stuff, man. I was one of the people who was mad when Facebook was like, you know, being a little like too PC and like, oh, we can't let you target African Americans. I was like, nah, fam, that was money. What are you doing? Like, I want to target Negroes. What are you doing? Get back.
Hey, I want to add one more thing about shipping for Kickstarter. So one thing that people need to take into consideration is not only the cost of shipping, right? That you have to calculate how much shipping is going to cost, but also that Kickstarter includes shipping in your goal, right? So like, let's say overall, you're like, you budget everything and you say, okay, I need at least $10,000 to raise, right? To reach my goal, right? Kickstarter is going to include the cost of shipping in that as you raise that $10,000. So once you reach $10,000, you're gonna hit the $10,000. But keep in mind that also includes shipping costs. But unless you're making money off shipping costs, it's not really, you really didn't hit your goal of $10,000. Right. You know what I mean? So that's one thing to always take into consideration. The one thing I wish that Kickstarter would change, that they don't include the cost of shipping in your goal, because it kind of throws you off, because you can't really calculate, like, for example, international shipping. You can't, you don't know how many international shippers you're going to have. And that's a big number there. You can have 10, you can have 20, right? And international shipping is like $25 at least to ship anywhere. So
at least
so it's hard to calculate. So, you know, you should always take that into consideration too. That the fact that if you're setting a goal and you make that calculation, you might want to bump it up a little bit to include a certain percentage that past that for actual shipping.
And then just to piggyback, like, you also want to consider like a small percentage of your packages are going to be returned and you might have to send them back out, you know? Like, so this lady was asking me, she was like, why you trying to get so much if you said you only need this to print? It's like, because man, There's all these other things that you have to consider.
It's like, why you all up in my business?
Well, yeah, that too. But it's real. Like, and if you're not considering all of that, like if you don't want to be paying out of pocket, man, like after you ran a successful Kickstarter. So
Yeah,
that makes me think about something important too that I've been thinking about a lot more is like, you know, smaller scale. Because like when you look at the numbers, it's like, what am I able to feasibly do that's actually going to pay this project so that people can get it, I can build an audience, but I also can do something that's manageable. Because there's also like the you know, double-edged sword of success where it's like, oh, yo, blew up, I got 5,000 people back my first. Oh, I can send out 5,000 pieces. 5,000 things is a lot. Like, dude. I don't like UPS. You know, it's just like, So I think for a lot of people, if you're just starting and it's like just you or a small team, like think about what you can actually do. Because you can do that math where you're like, all right, if it's just going to be like, I just 200 people, you know? And if I do my math correctly, that means I only need like, you know, $8,000 or like $2,000. Like figure that part out so that you can actually like, you know, deliver on it.
Two things I want to also add on top of that as well is calculate for drop pledges. even if it's I will add an extra $1,000 to my goal simply because there's going to be a bunch of people on the right when the money is being processed, their card for some reason, who knows, is not gonna be processed. So that's a good chunk of money that you lose out on. And nothing against those backers. A lot of them maybe had no idea that their card wasn't active, or maybe something happened that personally that they can't send the money. It is what it is. But for the ones who are running the Kickstarter, you have to be understanding in the sense that you're still going to lose not only whatever that amount of fee is, and you might think that fee that Kickstarter takes is not that much, it's only 8%. But then when you actually see what that 8% is, and you're just like, you know, and then the drop pledges as well. Like I've mentioned before online that there's been times where I've lost out on $1,000 to $2,000 from drop pledges. You know, and people always think, "Oh, you made so much money." It's like I really did not. I really did not make that much money at all. And then one thing that some people screw up on is they get so excited when they see that they've raised their goals, that they made their goal, and then they start thinking about stretch goals. Oh, I'm gonna give y'all this if I make this amount, and then it's like, you might want to be careful because that thing that you're offering is you didn't think about how much it's actually going to cost, and the fact that every single person is going to be getting it, and then you also have to ship that to every single person as well. So you got to think about, if you make stretch goals, you got to think about stretch goals that will not run your pockets as well. Something that people will be excited for, but you can still hopefully just use that money to help create more, to make it easier for you to ship these books, you know, to get your stuff out. Think of things that will not break your pocket, pretty much. And I feel like those are things that a lot of people do not consider. They don't think about until they do it, and then they shoot themselves in the foot, and then they're pissed off at themselves for it.
That just made me think about something, which is like, you know, what I found is that most people just want your product. Like people like if you got other stuff that's like dope, you can always do that on like after a Kickstarter is over, go make T-shirts or whatever and stuff like that. But put too much of that in there and like, you know, offer all these things that aren't just the like core thing. I think it not only distracts people, but you know what Guru was saying, like it'll, you know, sort of diminish your ability to fulfill and like, you know, break even or something at least. But I think that's the one thing that I learned the most is like people just wanted the book. They're like, I'll hit you later on the dope hats, but like I just want the book. So I would say that if you're gonna do a triple, do things that improve the product, you know, or do things where like, you know, people might want 2 copies or something like that, or 5 copies, you know, like add that kind of stuff on, because then you're not really like doing anything that's out of the norm. You're just making a better product, you know.
And you know, another thought behind it, like I'm always thinking bulk, everything I do. So if I set a stretch goal, I'm gonna set that goal to where I can order this product in bulk. So even after I fulfill anybody who got it through the Kickstarter, I'm gonna be able to make money going forward with it as well. You know, so good things. The other thing, Greg, because we were on that thread, we were talking about those drop pledges. I'm in the midst of that right now, but you know, with Tuskegee Airs, they dropped like over $6,000, close to $7,000 in pledges. So we initially, that, you know, if you look at it, it'll tell you, you know, we raised 74, but you know, after those pledges dropped, it was like, was it 68, something like that. Then with my first Sadaka Kickstarter, you know, the drop pledges, we raised a lot less, so the pledges were minimal. I'm in the midst of that right now, and this time I said, man, I'm gonna go out and reach out to people, because I've had people all over the United States. They come to shows and they're like, I think I pledged, and their pledge didn't go through or whatever, you know what I mean? And they're like, why didn't you say something? Especially like friends. And I know it's a difficult conversation sometimes to have, but I came from, you know, I manage like collection agencies. So, you know, it's called soft collections. You're coming in and say, hey man, like a friendly reminder, I don't know if you know, and you'll be surprised at how many people did not know that they're pledged. Like a lot of people just want to support you, and they pledge, they think the money's coming out right when they pledge, you know? So after being yelled at so many times, I was like, let me just try that this time. And I'll be honest with you guys, right now I have 10, like, you know, as soon as, you know, they tried to fund last Sunday, I had like 32 pledges that were dropped. Right now I have 10, because people have gone in, and a lot of people's like, yo, I don't even know what I'm doing here, but thank you, you know. And so you know, that's something that I'm going to employ from now on, just because, you know, sometimes basically you got another week to bust your butt. I was going to cuss to bust your butt with your Kickstarter, and then you can take a deep breath. But
yeah, I was gonna basically second that sentiment, Greg, and piggyback off what you said, because I had the same situation. I had a whole bunch of drop pledges, and I'm like in the inbox, like, oh hey, do you still want the book? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got about a week before, we had 2 weeks before like Kickstarter tries to try the cards again, and then finalizes everything. And a couple folks lost their jobs. One person was in the hospital. Like, you just a million different scenarios. And I think just like Greg had said, that the constant communication with the people who are on the platform, and whether it's email or on the actual platform itself, kind of can help you reclaim some of that stuff. So I know for me, when the Kickstarter was done, someone was like, oh, well, you going to take a break? I was like, nah, I still got 2 weeks more grinding left to do. It never ends. And I still think, even now, I still think about it, because I'm mid fulfillment. So maybe you guys, since we've only got about 9 minutes left, you can talk about advanced techniques really quickly and fulfillment strategies.
Advanced techniques for what? In marketing and Kickstarter?
Anything in general that you found to be like, because each one of you guys have done more than one. So it's like, what did you learn from the first one that has helped you gain like an advanced edge on your next one?
I do a lot of Facebook ads when I do my Kickstarter. So, and the important thing about that though is like, I don't just do like Facebook ads, and just like cross my fingers and hope they work. Like, I actually have like Facebook pixels. So and if you don't know what a pixel is, it's sort of like a unique number, a little unique identifier that Facebook gives you, or even Google has it too, that identifies that this little pixel belongs to Dream Fury Comics, right? So whenever somebody lands on that page, a page that has my pixel, Facebook will know that somebody landed on that page looking for me, right? And so that's how they connect the dots across different websites, right? So like, if you were at a Toyota website, and then all of a sudden you go to some blog, you'll see like a Toyota ad. It's the pixel that's kind of the technology behind that. So if you make sure you create like a Facebook pixel, once you do that, Facebook will be able to tell who visited your site, and they'll be able to, the algorithm will be able to create ads based on those pixels, and they'll be able to target your audience a lot better. So once you do that, it's your ads will be a lot more effective, because you'll hear people say Facebook ads didn't work for them. It wasn't working, but one of the key factors is that you actually set up pixels. That helps a lot. That's one of my advanced techniques.
Yeah, I see. Also with like Facebook too. Like Facebook is still the most effective ad targeting in the world. And it's not expensive if you know who your audience is, and you can sit there and gauge like what your rate of like return is going to be in terms of like click through, and you can set it up for like just getting people on your page. You can set it up for like people actually like backing it and stuff like that. But one of the other things that I found is like if you go through their actual Facebook page platform, you can control all those ads and turn them off and on. So you can like set up a whole bunch to like roll out throughout your entire campaign at different times, and even see how they're performing.
Facebook Ads Manager.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, Facebook Ads Manager. And then you can actually watch to see what's working and learn from that. And that's like always been a big push for us when we're doing campaigns, to be able to sit there and be like, oh, the one with that art, nobody wants to see that one. Like, let's take that one out. Or like, oh, people, these are both very similar, but the copy on this one's a little bit different. Like, let's turn that one off and like let's add that copy to some of the other ads and see if that one works. And it's like this constant little machine of like just trying to like almost like we do it shows when we're doing our, it's like just refining it so that you really like hit home with the audience that you're trying to reach.
Absolutely. Anyone you want to touch on fulfillment?
Yeah, fulfillment. I do as much of it myself. I got, I have, adult kids, so it's not like child labor. My brother, you know what I'm saying? Like,
put Kelly to work.
As much of it as I can by myself, because, anytime you're using a service to fulfill, they're taking money. So I try, I feel like that's the kind of a way to stay ahead, because you're always cutting that cost. You don't have to worry about, somebody charging you to do a service for you. A couple of other techniques I wanted to mention was just DMs. Like you have a page for your project, right? So it's not Black. We all have a page for it. Like you can actually go into your DM sometimes, and you can, just read through, see the people that show genuine interest. That person that said, "Where can I get this book?" And then you tell them, and then they go buy it. You can, you can do that kind of stuff to kind of go back in and hit those people, because a lot of people aren't going to see your ads. They're not going to see anything. So I always say, jump on that. And then what Greg said, like once you do a Kickstarter, whether you win or lose, you still have access to those people using, you can go to that previous Kickstarter and send out an update and say, hey, I got a new Kickstarter for blah, blah, blah. And those people that supported, they'll probably, you can't guarantee, but it's like you're actually marketing to people that have already showed you they're interested in you.
Another advanced tip too, if you're really into like helping, if you're into like having other people help you out, you can offer somebody like let's say they have a bigger audience than you do. You can say, hey, you know what? I'll give you a commission if you get certain people to my website. And you give them a special link. In Kickstarter, you're able to create these special links, and it'll tell you, okay, this link belongs to this person. And so you could kind of do a commission-based thing, say, hey, you know what? Here's your link, right? Use this link, and anytime you share, like Greg, yeah, anytime you share this link, you get a percentage of the sale. I haven't used it personally, but I know there are people who actually do that, and they've been successful with it too. So that's one technique that you can use.
Cool. So we've got about 2 minutes left. I want to take 1 minute to spend talking about what you guys think about BackerKit, and then the other minute I want to spend just recapping everybody's, social, where they can find you, all that other good stuff.
I am my backer kid. Excel. I know how to do Excel. Let's roll.
I do it myself. Because the thing is, like, those services are really great, but man, it's just like Kickstarter.
They take a lot.
You're like, I'll do it for you, but
yeah.
So
So
save your money, right?
yeah, I was going to use backer kit for my last Kickstarter. Then I was running the numbers and it's like, I'd rather keep the money. So
Yeah.
I was like, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just do it. I was like, I'll do it myself. Yeah, I'll do it myself.
So moral of the story is everybody who's watching, look at the numbers, care genuinely about the people who are supporting you, continue to build the network, be smart about it, talk to other creators. And I have loved this panel. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. I want everybody to go around the table and quickly just share your full name, your website, where we can reach you and how people can find you.
Yeah, so my name is, once again, Newton Lillavois. You can find me at Dream Fury Comics and across all social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
My name is Greg Burnham. I just realized I have like the least cool last name out of everybody here. TuskegeeAirs.com, platform L7.com, and then Tuskegee Airs in the search for Sadaka on Instagram and Facebook. And you can start there.
Greg Anderson, Elise. You can find me on IG, Greg Day, DAE. On Twitter, Greg and Elise. You can type in my name. I'll show up on Google, Facebook, all that other stuff. My main book is None of the Were Spider. You could purchase it on Amazon if that's easier for you, or directly from my website, which is webway.ecwid.com.
Kwanzaa Sagifo, you can find my work at blackthecomic.com, h1comics.com, or kwanzaasagifo.com. That good Google juice too, so if you just type in Kwanzaa Sagifo, you're very likely to find me. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kwanzaa, AWANZR, but I don't talk about comics much on Twitter, so be.
You could easily find, Newton or Kwanzaa or Dedrin. They're three top hat wearers in our industry. They always got some type of dope hat on, Scully, beanie, fedora, whatever. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, everybody. I appreciate y'all stepping up again and showing, just speaking the gospel about what we do, man. It's dope stuff. And again, I'm your host, TJ Sterling, president and lead artist of Ray Comics. You can find me at Ray Comics across all social media platforms, and raycomics.com for my flagship series, Alchemist. Hope everybody enjoyed the panel, and we'll see y'all soon.
Later.
So.
God damn it.